broken a promise I've made, says the first page of the Congress Manifesto, quoting Rahul Gandhi. And going by the 55-page manifesto that the party released today, he definitely has his task cut out for him if he aims to keep these promises. Now, manifestos are very rarely taken seriously in Indian politics, but the Congress seems to have put a lot of thought behind its presentation. They've taken about a year putting it together and highlighted important issues like jobs, education, healthcare, among its flagship schemes like Nyay and Narega as well. But making bold claims is one thing, keeping those promises is a different ball game altogether. So to talk more and discuss the Congress Manifesto today and what it means for the party going into general elections, I'm joined by Sanjay Jha from the Congress Party. Gopal Agarwal from the BJP will be joining us shortly. I'm also speaking today with senior journalist and political analyst Arati Jerath and political commentator and strategist Amitabh Tiwari. Let me get Ms. Jerath's point of view first before I come to the parties. What did you make of the manifesto?
Well, you know, a lot of the promises contained in the manifesto were already in the public domain because Rahul Gandhi had addressed a press conference announcing Nyay. He'd been talking about filling up these 22 lakh vacancies in government jobs. He talked about a 3-year permission holiday for startups and so on. So there was that way there was nothing startlingly new in the manifesto. What was, I thought, really interesting was the way Rahul Gandhi has gone out on a limb to make himself accountable for delivery. You know, by saying that he has never broken a promise, by constantly sort of positioning himself as, the polar opposite of Narendra Modi, who he accused of telling lies all the time and said that I will deliver, I can deliver. In fact, the cover of the manifesto says, Hum nibhayenge. Now, this is something which is really interesting because, you know, as you yourself said in your introductory remarks, you know, making promises is very easy, but delivering them is much more difficult when you sort of run up against the wheels of bureaucracy, when you run up against, the vast, complex nature of this country, the kind of, corruption that exists at lower levels. So, it's going to be really, Rahul will actually be held to his word. If by some chance the Congress does come to power, then Rahul has really sort of put himself out on a limb to be held accountable for these promises.
Part of the manifesto also talks about an annual accountability exercise where the government, if it's a Congress government, will tick off how much of the manifesto has actually been implemented or not. But there are some points that come to mind, and Sanjay Jha, let me come to you because I spent quite some time reading through all of the points. When you talk about jobs, and everyone agrees, the party claims jobs is the #1 issue. How are you solving jobs? And the plan seems to be to get the government to fill vacancies. 4 lakh in the central government by March 2020, and then 20 lakhs the state will fill. Now, why should the state listen to the central government? Well, because if they don't, then you'll hold back funds for education, healthcare, panchayats and municipalities. It doesn't seem like a great plan to tackle the jobs crisis in any permanent way. Sanjay Jha.
Tamanna, before I answer your question, I think Arati has made a very pertinent point that unfortunately, because we live in a world of all these rhetorical promises, manifestos were not taken seriously, and definitely not after Narendra Modi's absolutely substandard and half-baked attempts at promising 2 crore jobs and MSP over 50% and 15 lakh in everybody's bank account. And I think we need to really elevate our public discourse. And I think in the Congress document, this is really a walk the talk document. I agree that what Mr. Gandhi has done is to say, when we win, when we form a government, hold us accountable. and we will self-examine it.
Sanjay,
We'll be
if you can
harsh
come to
with
my
ourselves.
question on jobs
because ultimately, I think that's the only way you bring
please.
respectability into politics.
I allow you as a political spokesperson to make all of those points, but because I have gone through it in detail, and this is what I saw, that jobs is the biggest issue. We all agree jobs is the biggest issue. We all also know that jobs are going to be provided by the private sector, and there are some incentives there. But the first plan seems to be, let the government hire. Let's increase Manrega from 100 days to 150 days. Well, now, that's a losing battle if the government is going to become the biggest employer.
So Tamanna, let me answer your question. I think it's a very intelligent and a pragmatic statement to make on jobs, right? What do you do first? There is at the moment, as we talk, an epic job crisis. So what should the Congress government do? First thing we will do is take the low-hanging fruits. There are, by the way, 22 lakh jobs that Narendra Modi's government has not filled up. By the way, not in the last 6 months, over the last couple of years. And since you are a business journalist, you know it as well as I do. The reason behind the Modi government not filling up these vacancies is because they were scared of the fiscal deficit getting from bad to worse. So that is the reality. So what are we committing here? We believe that, this has got a terrible social consequence, is to have your demographic dividend twiddle their thumbs and be jobless at home. The BJP wants them to become Gau Rakshaks or what? We are committed. We will make sure that these jobs are filled up. Okay. Obviously, we have been very honest enough to say there are some state governments which are not Congress, and therefore we'll have to work with them. But as far as the private sector is concerned, that is going to be the key thrust going forward. Public spending is not going to create jobs in the long run.
Exactly.
So what are we talking about? Incentivizing companies to actually employ. We are talking about an apprenticeship scheme. We are actually redefining and bringing the focus into the MSME sector. So when you look at the entire ecosystem, the encouragement, the apprenticeship scheme, we have talked about actually employing 10 lakh people in the Gram Panchayats, water bodies.
That's again government.
Those are the kind of initiatives that really change the story.
That's again government. Seva Mitra is government.
Just one last point.
Increasing the number of Asha workers, Anganwadi workers is government.
That's right.
So that is my point. Is there enough for the private sector?
Fair enough.
I want to just get Gopal Agarwal into the conversation from the BJP. Just let me
look at the MSME sector focus.
No, you're redefining MSMEs according to how many people they hire. To what end, I'm not too clear about. But let me just come to Gopal Agarwal on the jobs part of it.
That is job related, right?
Yeah. Mr. Agarwal, welcome to the show. I assume you've read through the manifesto in as much detail as Arun Jaitley did during his press conference. In fact, he made that comment saying, I think I've read the manifesto more than Rahul Gandhi. What do you make of the promises on jobs? So that's say, if we break it into buckets, that's the number one issue that the opposition has identified. Their first plan is that at least let's fill the vacancies we have, the low-hanging fruit. What's your counter to that?
No, but the thing is that the whole, we were also expecting so many things when the Congress president was saying that we will make a big change, etc. But all the thing is that the whole manifesto is just rhetoric and no substance. On every issue, there is just announcements, but there is no roadmap. At one point of time, they are talking that the fiscal deficit will be contained, prudent fiscal deficit policies, no tax increase. But then the expenditure in education, on job, on nyaya, all these schemes, they are tremendously increasing. See what they are talking on education. That is 6% of the GDP. That what is the amount? Do they have any calculation? What is 6% of GDP?
There's a caveat there.
Total GDP.
I'll come to that. There's a caveat there because they've given themselves 5 years for the 6% on GDP and the 3% on healthcare, which together is a whopping 9%.
The thing is that as Mr. Arun Jaitley said, the devil lies in the details. Everywhere there is a detail where they will be hiding so many things. Yeah. There will be no roadmap. They will make big announcement. Then will come all the rhetoric, nothing substance. And when they are talking of job creation, you yourself are saying that who put this moratorium on the government jobs? Why this moratorium on government job? This was to contain fiscal deficit. So if they are saying, Mr. Jha is saying that the BJP is against this not doing because of fiscal prudence, then where the Congress will come out with the resources? They have saying that we will cut down on.
But Mr. Agarwal, you will have to fill government vacancies at some point. The fact is that those government vacancies have not been filled. You'll have to fill them at some point.
But that is mostly, I tell you, Tamanna, the majority of vacancies is under the PSUs category and state categories. So Congress has only 5 states. So when they have not taken the states on board, how they will ask PSU to finance those jobs without looking into their financial implications?
I'm going to let Amitabh.
They are a commercial entity.
I'm going to let Amitabh Tiwari come in.
Nobody is Tamanna. The Tamanna. The issue is not nobody wants that the 22 lakhs job should not be given. But how you do it, you have to tell. Na? If they ask us a question that you have not done, the issue is there is no roadmap on job creation.
Okay, will you provide one in your manifesto? Okay, Mr. Agarwal, 1 second. Will you provide one in your manifesto? Will you provide one in your manifesto? Will your manifesto then be more detailed than the Congress manifesto on jobs?
Manifesto, we have been saying, Tamanna, the issue is that we have over the last 5 years covered a lot of roadmap.
I'm talking about your manifesto.
Every economic
I'm talking about your manifesto. I'm talking about your manifesto.
So we have already done so much on the job creation, on moving unorganized sector labor force into organized sector. Still there are gaps. Definitely we'll come out with targets. We come out with definite targets and a roadmap and a performance metrics over last 5 years. Also we will come out with a report card. If you see Congress manifesto,
so report card versus manifesto. Let me just get Amitabh Tiwari in.
Much more.
Let me just get Amitabh Tiwari in.
The Congress promises still.
No. So there's a distinction. Let me get Amitabh Tiwari in. Gopal Agarwal is saying that we will tell you what we have done. What we have done. 1 minute, Sanjay Jha. What we have done versus what we promised to do. Now, a manifesto technically kind of tells you what you will do if voted back to power. It's sort of a promise. So you tell people what you stand for. They read it, hopefully, and then they make an informed decision about which party to vote from.
Give a roadmap.
One second. Amitabh Tiwari, I want to ask you 2 questions. One is, in the current electoral scenario or political scenario, how much do manifestos really matter? And what do you make of the promises that the Congress has made today?
See, you have to agree that for the first time in probably elections in the last 20-30 years, there is a buzz around manifestos. What has happened is that the Congress party won the 3 elections recently held in MP, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, predominantly banking on the manifesto promises which they made, which were essentially farm loan waiver and MSP for rice of 2,500 rupees per quintal. So, and this puts a pressure on the BJP to come out with the manifesto. So now what is happening is that people are taking manifestos seriously, and also Congress has realized that simple and clear messages work. So 4-5 key messages like Nyay, increasing the Narega from 100 to 150, filling up government vacancies, simple crisp messages work. If you recall, last time BJP released this manifesto in the first, when voting was happening for the first phase. So they were
on the first day of polling, correct, on the first day of polling.
Yeah, on the first day of polling. So now BJP is under pressure because Congress will now go to the voter essentially harping on their Nyay promise, which is 72,000 rupees per annum, and BJP has to come up with something to counter this. What it does is that it will also refocus the discussions on elections on development. So Gopalji is already talking about that we will go and tell the people what we've done in the last 5 years, but that is missing in the speeches of Modi or Amit Shah. So it will refocus, or it will perhaps lead to a refocus of the discussions on the development and the agenda forward, which is good for Indian politics. See, what Congress will find a challenge in is that its party structure is significantly reduced or declined over the past few years, and the beneficiaries of Nyaya are mostly the poor of the poorest families, who are not there on social media, who are not there on, who may not be watching TV, who may not be reading newspapers. So to convey the message of Nyaya to the beneficiary or communicate the message will be the biggest challenge for Congress.
Okay, now I just want to come on a few other points. Let me come to Arati, Jerath, because it's a vast manifesto and obviously we can't go point by point.
To point out is...
Yeah, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, I'm coming to Arati, Jerath right after that.
Which we should not ignore it.
No, we will not ignore anything. We will not ignore anything, sir, but I must come to Arati, Jerath. And the point I wanted to make, Ms. Jerath, about...
There are other aspects than the economy which are very important.
Yes, I will come to it. But what I wanted to ask Ms. Jerath was, a kind of departure that I saw from what the traditional Congress approach to governance is. Some were in default mode, like big government, we will hire everyone. Your health insurance scheme will be, your insurance companies will do it on a no profit, no loss basis. Even for, government hospitals will be boosted, not private hospitals. So that's back to your traditional Congress default mode. But some things like we will remove the sedition law. We will review AFSPA. Things like this which P. Chidambaram, when he was Home Minister, would have never agreed to. And these elements are there in the manifesto. Does it also talk to a wider influence in the group of people who have contributed to this document?
Well, as the Congress party itself has said, Rahul Gandhi himself said that they've been working on this manifesto for a year. And they not only consulted experts and, sort of well-known economists like Raghuram Rajan and Thomas Piketty, but they also talked to people on the ground. They got voices to come in and give their inputs, into the manifesto. Now, this is the first time that the Congress has conducted such an exercise. If you remember, it was the Aam Aadmi Party that first started this whole business of consulting people and trying to, find out from people what they would like, a government to do. Now, the sort of Congress party has followed suit, and so has the BJP apparently. The BJP has also conducted, they've got some 20 lakh responses, to, the questions that they sent out, asking people to give their inputs. So obviously there is a much wider, consultation process. And, I think, look, I don't think, although I do believe that manifesto should have some kind of a roadmap for the promises that they make, I mean, it's not possible for a government to spell out a complete roadmap because firstly, you don't know the shape of the government. It's most likely going to be a coalition government. I don't see the Congress coming to power on its own. So in which case a coalition government would have to draft a common minimum program, which may or may not include these promises that the Congress has made in its manifesto. But I think the main aim of this manifesto is to try and change the narrative that we are currently seeing. The BJP after Pulwama has made nationalism and national security the main narrative, its dominant theme for the election. Now, that's not a terrain on which the Congress can really fight the BJP easily because the BJP is, sort of very muscular in, pressing this theme. So the Congress, on the other hand, is known as a party that runs a welfare state, that's pro-poor, and so on and so forth. So I think that the Congress has, in this manifesto, played to its strengths by talking about the poor, by, sort of spelling out some kind of a welfare vision, for whatever government may come into place. And, in that process, they're offering a counter narrative to the BJP's narrative. So what you're seeing is actually a clash of two visions and, two narratives, two choices for the voters. And I think that's really going to be the story of these elections. And it's for the voters to choose which narrative they want to go with. Because, even the BJP's national security narrative, it's not really a clearly defined, well thought out strategy. What they've done is, Pulwama happened and they went to Balakot and did an airstrike. But what nobody is saying is, why did Pulwama happen in the first place? What were the failures that led to 40 CRPF Jawans being killed by, by a terrorist? So how did that happen?
Yeah.
So, you know, even that national security narrative is full of holes. You know, as much as the BJP, as much as the Congress's, you know, grand plans for pro-poor welfare measures.
Gopal Agarwal, I want you to come in on that. I know you want to make some points on the economy, and please, you know, go ahead with that. But I want to start with your response to what Arati Jerath has said, which is very important, because we heard over the last few days the Prime Minister's speeches. And of course, he starts every speech with listing all the achievements of the government, the Ujjwala scheme, the Jan Dhan Yojana, PM Kisan, all of that comes in. But at some point, it veers to national security, Balakot, Pakistan, Hindu terrorism, like we saw a few days ago. The comment on Wayanad, where, you know, Rahul Gandhi is running to a constituency where the minority is in majority. So it's a very different pitch from what we saw in 2014. Do you think you are now under pressure to go back to Rozgar, roti and very basic, simple issues because of this manifesto?
No, Tamanna, I would like to tell you is that very important point has come up now in discussion. I tell you, this is a Tukde gang manifesto by Congress. It's completely by those category of people who want to ignore national security. You see, they are talking of modifying IPC and removing sedition law. They are talking of CRPC Act will be dispensed with, and bail will be compulsorily. Who will be benefited out of this?
No. One minute. Okay, one minute. I've actually read the manifesto.
AFSA, Armed Forces Special Dilute. No, I am telling you, there is a complete chapter on that. They are talking of Armed Forces Special Protection Act to be amended. So, what they want to do with the national security?
So Gopal Agarwal, 1 minute. One minute. I will ask them. There is a Congress spokesperson here, but 1 minute. We'll have to argue on the facts.
So I want
to argue on the facts.
There are 3 points I want to ask you.
On AFSPA, 1 minute. On AFSPA, they talk about a review, and I said that in my question to Arati Jerath. This is something P. Chidambaram would have possibly never done when he was Home Minister. They're talking about reviewing it where they keep the needs and the requirements of the armed forces in balance with human rights of civilians. This is a political hot potato. I completely agree with you. I don't know what this Tukde gang definition is. So unless it's defined in law, I will ignore that.
And in the ground realities.
Yeah.
Tamanna, this is the way they are ignoring national security and ground reality. How our armed forces are suffering in those areas.
So you are saying
Northeast, then in Kashmir Valley.
Okay, so the review of AFSPA is something you're concerned about.
Sedition law.
Okay. Omitting sedition law.
And I'm also talking on the IPC amendment in this sedition law. They are talking that they will remove the sedition law. This is a Tukde gang which is active in their manifesto. Now they are also talking of automatic bail.
Tamanna, I think you should give me a chance to respond to this.
Resistant Maoism and Naxals will be benefited out of this.
Okay, so Gopal Agarwal, you made 3 points.
Important issues. I want a clear-cut answer.
There will be a clear-cut answer. But on these 3 points, we must focus on what your question is and what has been claimed. On AFSPA, they have said they want to review AFSPA. In fact, I'll add one 4th point which you may have omitted, Gopal Agarwal. They're also saying they want to review the deployment of armed forces in the valley and leave more of the day-to-day policing to the Jammu and Kashmir police versus the armed forces. That should have perhaps been one of your points. They want to review AFSPA and see how it can balance, 1 minute, how it can balance the requirements of the armed forces as well as human rights. We know it's a bone of contention in the valley. As far as sedition law is concerned, is the sedition law still valid or not is an ongoing debate. They have stuck their necks out again. They never did this in the 10 years of UPA and said, let's get rid of it. As far as under trials and those in remand are concerned, the bail is on 2 pointers. So if you are under trial for a charge which requires 3 years of punishment and you've served 3 months, then you should be let out. And if it is 3 to 7 years and you've served 6 months, then you should be let out. The charges of terrorism, Maoism, or any heinous crimes that you talk about are all punishable over 7 years. But this is what they have said. Should they have said it or not, I will leave to Sanjay Jha to explain. Sanjay Jha, I want you to come in on the sort of hypocrisy of it, or where has this light suddenly come from, where you are willing, you have applied sedition law when you were in the UPA, when the UPA government was running the country. AFSPA is something which a lot of people covering Jammu and Kashmir and interlocutors have said, dilute it, look at it again. You've said never, not possible when you were in government. Are these points something that you actually mean to implement, and have you sort of dug a hole for yourself politically by bringing them up right now?
Tamanna, first and foremost, the entire manifesto is prepared bottom up. These are based out of consultations with various stakeholders, including those in the Jammu and Kashmir. So, let me tell you, you can't now just say what we said in UPA 1 or what happened during the time of Mr. Narasimha Rao. Politics and society is in a state of fluidity. So right now, this is our view, and we intend to do exactly what the manifesto says. Now, let me answer to you on AFSPA. It is so absolutely ridiculous on the part of this BJP to talk of national security, simply because at the end of the day, the number of terror incidents, the number of security forces killed, the number of people, civilians murdered, 45 Jawans slaughtered in cold blood in Pulwama, they actually have no right to talk on national security. Now, let me tell you, as far as AFSPA is concerned, how can Arun Jaitley have an objection even the manifesto says we will balance the needs of internal security? Jerath Agarwal, I did not interrupt you. Please do not interrupt me. Let's have a civilized debate here. So, Tamanna, the simple point is, it is actually a very pragmatic document. It says we will ensure that both human rights, which you and I both know have been trampled under Narendra Modi over the last 5 years, and internal security will be maintained. How can you have an objection on such a reasonable and a fair statement that respects the rule of law, that respects the responsibility of the state, and also individual civil liberties?
I'll tell you why you can. When you say why should the BJP question us on national security, they have a right to as much as anyone does. Firstly. Secondly, you can't just, shake up a hornet's nest and say that we'll figure it out. The debate on AFSPA is a long-standing, detailed one. You've left it with 2 sentences. What do you mean by balancing human rights with the requirements of the armed force? That's the entire AFSPA debate. That's the entire AFSPA debate.
Well, let me.
That they conduct their anti-terror? Can they conduct their anti-terror fight without that protection?
And yes, madam, let me answer you very quickly. I will take lesser time than the time you took to ask me the question.
Yes,
if you can tell Agarwal to keep quiet, I will answer your question.
Let's be
Please tell Agarwal to quieten down, I will answer you.
Yes, let's
by the way, anybody let's be nice, but let it be a mutual responsibility. Now, as far as AFSPA is concerned, it is not just in Jammu and Kashmir, it has also been applied to different northeastern states of India. What is the point on AFSPA in Jammu and Kashmir is in terms of whether you need it partially, whether you need to lift it more often. There are various permutation combinations to deal with internal security. We are not getting into the details here, for heaven's sake. I mean, we are talking about these things are done, but a political intent to review it is definitely on the cards. We are not going to make statements like the Modi government did, which said that there will be no review of AFSA at all. It is too premature. So there are 2 different political parties with a very different approach to the Kashmir problem. And anybody who looks at Kashmir today, where you had a young 19-year-old militant who's become a terrorist, who kills our own soldiers, tells you what a disaster Narendra Modi has been for Kashmir and for internal security. How can we deny that? For the first time, you had a suicide bomber, a terrorist from
Gopal Agarwal, I'll allow you an interjection. I'll allow you an interjection, and then we'll move on to the next topic and a conclusion. Yes,
Tamanna, for 60 years, we have seen how Kashmir has been, just the Kashmir policy has been, from Nehru to Indira Gandhi to Rajiv Gandhi. Every time the way this Kashmir has been messed up by Congress, and the country is suffering because of that. Still their support is from NCP. What they are talking, he's talking of going back to 1953 law.
You mean National Conference, NC?
He's talking, and Congress is supporting that. So, yes, NC, yes. So he's talking of going back to 1953 law. So what the Congress is not clear is they are talking
one minute. Gopal Agarwal,
Kashmir problem.
One minute. You know why it's important to talk about these issues. 1 minute. Sanjay Jha and Gopal Agarwal, I'm going to stop both of you there. Why it's important to talk about these issues is because people will also look and should look at what the BJP's approach to the Kashmir issue has yielded in the last 5 years, what the Congress has done in the last many years, and what both are proposing. That should be the, I would say, sane way of looking at policy and a promise of policy. So let's leave it to voters.
Compare as 60 years of failure. No, the 60 years of Congress failure in Kashmir cannot be compared in 5 years change in policy.
Okay, one sec. Arati, I want to come to you.
60 years of failure in Kashmir.
Yeah, but you 1 minute. Sanjay Jha and Gopal Agarwal, please. Let's pause on it right now. You will have to review a government as per its term, which is every 5 years. A manifesto will have to be a promise of what comes next. The term has ended. You may well come back to power, Gopal Agarwal, but you will have to make a promise. We'll have to wait and see what's in the BJP manifesto. Arati, Jerath, I just want you to sort of round this off by talking about what comes next. You spoke about how a minimum income guarantee may feature, and that was a comment that was made, may feature in the BJP manifesto or not. But is the pressure now higher on them to come up with something, or are they going to push through on Modi magic? Because do manifestos really win elections?
Well, I don't think voters read manifestos in such a detailed manner. But certainly the manifesto provides talking points. And, as you can see, Rahul Gandhi today said that there were 5 big ideas. And those are the 5 big ideas that he's been talking about in the run-up to the release of the manifesto. And he will continue to talk about through his entire campaign. So, that's the thing, that they are talking points that they provide for the election campaign. And, I do feel that the BJP is under pressure, because if you see the way the narrative has been unfolding, I mean, the PM firstly has completely stopped talking about development. Unlike 2014, when he really had this message of hope and aspiration, where he presented himself as a chaiwala who aspires to become the Prime Minister of India and shows that, yes, we can do it. It was a really positive, aspirational message. Today, the message that is coming out is fear. It's one of fear-mongering. That be careful, there's a terrorist round the corner. Be careful, there's a militant round the corner. Be careful, there's Pakistan breathing down your neck. You need a chowkidar. Why do people keep chowkidars? Only because they fear something, right? Otherwise, why should you have a chowkidar? So, the whole message that is coming through this time is a very negative message built on fear. And I think that if the BJP wants to counter the kind of hope that the Congress is offering through this manifesto that they've released today, I think the BJP will have to somewhat shift back to the development narrative. Otherwise, I don't think just muscular nationalism or this whole fear narrative can get them through.
Gopal Agarwal, you want to respond to that? You said you want to respond to that.
Only thing, this
Tamanna,
threat which we are talking is not something which is imaginary. It is real. The country has suffered because of terrorism, because of insurgency, because of Naxal movements, and because of Maoist movement. And there was a group of people who were supporting them through various institutions, even like JNU, then in West Bengal, etc. So we need to, that support base of this ideological support had also to be demolished. That's a very important factor. We have to understand a country needs a strong decisive action against militants and separatists and Naxal movements and Maoists. No country in the world accepts this, but we were accepting them. They were sitting in our own house supporting external forces and talking of Azadi in Kashmir.
Yeah,
talking of independence, talking of human rights.
I'm going to let Sanjay Jha come in.
So what is this?
Okay, 1 sec. Yeah, Sanjay Jha.
Tamanna, I think the fundamental issue in the Congress manifesto is Nyay. This is an anti-poverty attack, and trust me, it will lift I think, a large number of people out of the poverty line. This is something we should all celebrate. It's a commitment, and we're going to deliver on it. Rupees 72,000 rupees per annum to everyone who is below the poverty line. The other one is the Kisan budget every year, a dedicated Kisan budget. That's a commitment to the farming community.
We are showing people all the highlights of the manifesto on the screen, so they know that. Let's not enumerate all of them. People know.
Demolish this Nyaya completely.
No, I have run out of time. I have run out of time. It is a detailed manifesto. All of the details and what people are saying about it are available on this show on BloombergQuint.com. I leave the choice to you. Okay, Arati Jerath. I will give Arati Jerath the last
word. Can I make one last point, Tamanna?
Yes, please.
Yeah, one last point. That listen, attacking and removing poverty will certainly remove a lot of the threats of Maoism, militancy, terrorism, and so on. So I think the basic fight has to be against poverty.
Okay.
If you want to actually attack the fundamental thing of Maoism and terrorism,
there has to be a roadmap, just not.
All right. Maybe the roadmap will come in the BJP manifesto. We look forward to the BJP manifesto and to decoding that as well. And of course, we look forward to voters actually going through what parties are promising and then making your decision. It's only fair to yourself if you make an informed decision. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us and to all of our viewers for tuning in.